Dr. Catherine Kate Morrison pushed her cleaning cart down the hallway of the Naval Medical Center in San Diego, California. The wheels squeaked softly against the polished linoleum floor, a sound she had grown used to over the past 18 months. At 52 years old, Kate knew she didn't look like much anymore. Her dark hair was streaked with gray and pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore the standard janitorial uniform, navy blue work pants, and a matching shirt with K. Morrison embroidered on the pocket. No rank, no decorations, no indication of who she used to be. That was exactly how she wanted it. "Excuse me," a young nurse said impatiently, not bothering to look at Kate as she squeezed past the cleaning cart. "You're blocking the hallway." "Sorry," Kate said quietly, moving the cart closer to the wall. The nurse hurried past without acknowledgement. Kate was used to that too. Invisible. That's what janitors were to most people. They cleaned the floors, emptied the trash, scrubbed the toilets, and existed in the background of everyone else's important lives. Kate had been working the evening shift at the Naval Medical Center for a year and a half. She arrived at 3 in the afternoon and left at 11 at night, cleaning offices, patient rooms, surgical suites, and hallways. The work was mindless and repetitive, which was exactly what she needed. Her supervisor, a gruff man named Ron Tucker, found her in the third-floor break room that evening. "Morrison, I need you to add the SEAL recovery ward to your rotation tonight. Jenny called in sick." Kate's hands tightened on the mop handle. "The SEAL ward." "Yeah, it's on the 5th floor, East Wing. They've got a team recovering from a training accident. Just do the hallways and common areas. They don't want anyone in the patient rooms. Can you handle it?" Kate forced herself to nod. "Yes, sir." "Good, and Morrison, those guys are special operators, military elite. Show some respect, don't bother them, and stay out of their way. Got it?" "Got it." After Tucker left, Kate stood alone in the break room, staring at her reflection in the small mirror above the sink. The face looking back at her was tired, worn down by years of guilt and nightmares. She barely recognized herself anymore. The SEAL ward, of course it had to be the SEAL ward. Kate finished her regular rounds and then took the elevator to the 5th floor. The East Wing was quieter than the rest of the hospital, with restricted access and additional security. She showed her ID badge to the guard at the desk. "Janitorial," she said. "I'm covering the common areas tonight." The guard barely glanced at her. "Stay out of the patient rooms, don't disturb anyone. They've been through hell this week." "I understand." Kate pushed her cart down the hallway, moving slowly, methodically. Through the windows of the patient rooms, she could see young men in hospital beds, some with casts, some with bandages, all with the look of warriors forced into unwanted rest. SEALs, the Navy's elite special operators, the best of the best. She had known so many of them over the years, had operated on them, saved their lives, sent them back into combat, and sometimes held their hands as they died despite her best efforts. Kate was cleaning the hallway when she heard voices from the common room, a large space where mobile patients could gather, watch television, or just escape the monotony of their hospital rooms. Complete cluster, the rope snapped during the fast rope drill. Martinez fell 30 feet. "How's he doing?" "Broken leg, cracked ribs, concussion. He'll live, but he's out of rotation for at least 6 months. "Damn, that's his second major injury this year." Kate kept her head down and continued mopping, trying to be invisible. But as she worked her way closer to the common room, one of the SEALs noticed her. "Hey, cleaning lady," he called out. "Can you empty this trash? It's overflowing." Kate pushed her cart into the common room. 5 SEALs were scattered around, 3 on couches, 2 in wheelchairs. All of them looked like they had been through a rough week. She moved to empty the trash, working quietly. "Man, I can't believe they've got us stuck in here," one of them complained. "I feel fine. I could be back at the team house." "Doc Reynolds says we need monitoring for at least another 48 hours, another replied. "Something about potential complications." "Doc Reynolds is paranoid. We're SEALs, not normal patients. We heal faster." Kate felt a familiar frustration rise in her chest but pushed it down. It wasn't her place to say anything, not anymore. "Excuse me," she said quietly, reaching for the trash can near one of the couches. The SEAL sitting there, a muscular man in his late 20s with a thick beard, looked at her like she was an annoyance. "Can you come back later? We're trying to have a conversation here." I just need to. Later, he said dismissively. We'll let you know when we're done. Kate stepped back, her face burning. Of course, sorry to bother you. She pushed her cart back into the hallway, her hands trembling slightly. She told herself it didn't matter. She was just the janitor. She had no right to be offended. But it still hurt. Kate had almost finished the hallway when she heard a commotion from one of the patient rooms. Raised voices, then an alarm sounding. Her medical instincts kicked in before she could stop them. She moved quickly to the doorway and looked inside. A young SEAL was in the bed, his face pale and sweating, gasping for breath. The monitors showed his oxygen saturation dropping rapidly. Kate's mind shifted instantly into diagnostic mode. Pneumothorax, collapsed lung, probably a delayed complication from the training accident. A nurse rushed past her into the room. Page the doctor now. But Kate could see the patient's lips turning blue. He didn't have time to wait for the doctor. She stepped into the room, her voice calm and clear. He needs a chest decompression, immediately. The nurse looked at her, startled. Who are you? Kate hesitated. I can help. He has a tension pneumothorax. If you don't decompress it now, he'll die. You're a janitor, get out. The patient's oxygen saturation continued to drop. 75%, 70%. Kate made a decision. She moved to the supply cabinet, grabbing a large-bore needle and antiseptic. If you won't do it, I will. What the hell do you think you're? But Kate was already at the bedside, locating the correct intercostal space, prepping the site. 30 years of surgical experience guided her hands as she inserted the needle between the ribs. There was an immediate hiss of air as the pressure released. The patient's breathing eased almost instantly. His color began to improve. The nurse stared at her in shock. How did you? The doctor burst into the room, a young Navy lieutenant commander Kate didn't recognize. He took in the scene quickly. Kate holding the decompression needle, the patient's improving vital signs, the nurse's stunned expression. Who are you? He demanded. What have you done? Before Kate could answer, the patient opened his eyes and looked at her. Thank you, he gasped. Security appeared in the doorway seconds later. We got a report of an unauthorized person in a patient room. The doctor pointed at Kate. She just performed a medical procedure. She's a janitor. Kate carefully secured the needle and stepped back. He needed immediate decompression. He's stable now, but you should get him to surgery for a chest tube. I'll decide what my patient needs, the doctor said coldly. Security, escort this woman out. I'll be filing a report with administration. The security guard took Kate's arm. Ma'am, you need to come with me. Kate didn't resist. She took one last look at the young SEAL who was breathing easier now, his color returning to normal. She had saved his life. That was what mattered. As security led her away, she could hear the SEALs from the common room asking what had happened. The janitor just went crazy, the nurse was saying. Started performing medical procedures like she was a doctor or something. Kate was taken to the security office, where she sat for 2 hours while they decided what to do with her. Her supervisor, Ron Tucker, arrived, looking furious. What the hell were you thinking, Morrison? You assaulted a patient. I saved his life, Kate said quietly. He had a tension pneumothorax. Another 2 minutes and he would have coded. You're a janitor. You have no business touching patients. I know, I'm sorry. Tucker paced the small office. This is grounds for immediate termination. Hell, they could press charges. Where did you even learn to do something like that? Kate said nothing. Answer me, Morrison. What kind of janitor knows how to perform emergency medical procedures? Kate looked at her hands, scarred, capable hands that had performed thousands of surgeries, that had saved hundreds of lives, that had also failed to save so many others. I used to be a doctor, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Tucker stopped packing. What? A long time ago. I was a Navy surgeon, but I'm not anymore. Tucker stared at her. You're telling me you're a doctor and you've been working as a janitor for 18 months. Why? Kate closed her eyes. Because I can't be a doctor anymore. I can't. I just can't. Before Tucker could respond, the door opened. A senior hospital administrator entered, along with the young doctor from the SEAL ward. Mrs. Morrison, the administrator began. It's Dr. Morrison, the young doctor interrupted, holding a file. Or it was, I pulled her personnel file. Dr. Catherine Morrison, Captain, United States Navy Medical Corps, retired, formerly the head of trauma surgery at this very hospital. Everyone in the room went silent. The administrator looked at Kate with new eyes. Captain Morrison, you're the Kate Morrison. Kate didn't answer. Why didn't you tell anyone? Tucker asked, bewildered. Kate stood up slowly. Because I didn't want anyone to know, I just wanted to be left alone. But why work as a janitor? The administrator pressed. You're a decorated surgeon. You saved countless lives. You could write your own ticket at any hospital in the country. Kate's hands clenched into fists. Because the last time I worked as a doctor, good men died on my operating table and I couldn't save them. Because I have nightmares every night about all the soldiers I failed. Because I'm broken and I can't trust myself to hold a scalpel anymore. Her voice cracked on the last words. The room fell silent. The patient you treated tonight, the young doctor said quietly. Petty Officer Jackson, he's stable. You saved his life. If you hadn't acted when you did, he would have died before I got there. Kate nodded, feeling tears threaten. Good, I'm glad he's okay. Captain Morrison, the administrator said gently, we need to discuss what happens next. Kate wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. I understand. I'll clear out my locker and be gone within the hour. That's not what I meant. Please sit down, we need to talk. But Kate couldn't stay in that room anymore, couldn't face the questions and the scrutiny and the memories that were flooding back. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. And then she walked out, leaving behind the confused faces and the questions and the file folder that contained the story of who she used to be. She retrieved her personal items from her locker, changed out of her uniform, and walked out into the San Diego night. Behind her, the hospital continued its work, unaware that one of its most decorated surgeons had just walked out the door disguised as a janitor. Unaware that Kate Morrison's carefully constructed anonymity was about to be shattered forever. Kate didn't sleep that night. She sat in her small apartment in a quiet neighborhood near the base, staring at a photograph she kept hidden in a drawer. The photo showed a different version of herself, Captain Kate Morrison in her Navy dress whites, standing between two rows of Navy SEALs. She was smiling, confident at the peak of her career. That photo had been taken 8 years ago after she had successfully operated on an entire SEAL team that had been ambushed in Afghanistan. She had saved 7 out of 8 men that day. The 8th had died on her table despite 12 hours of desperate surgery. His name was Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rivera. He was 29 years old. He had a wife and 2 small children. Kate could still see his face, could still remember the exact moment when his heart had stopped despite everything she tried. She remembered telling his wife, remembered the woman's anguished screams, remembered the 2 little boys who would grow up without their father. After that, there had been others, so many others. The nature of combat surgery meant that some patients couldn't be saved, no matter how skilled the surgeon. Kate knew this intellectually, but knowing it and living with it were 2 different things. The breaking point had come 3 years ago. A SEAL team had been hit by an IED in Syria. Multiple casualties, all critical. Kate had worked for 18 hours straight, moving from one operating table to another, fighting to save young men who had given everything for their country. She had saved 4, she had lost 3. After that mission, something inside Kate had broken. The nightmares intensified. The guilt became overwhelming. She started making small mistakes in surgery, nothing fatal but enough to shake her confidence. She would stand at the operating table with a scalpel in her hand and suddenly doubt every decision, second-guess every cut. A surgeon who doubts is a dangerous surgeon. So Kate had retired. She had walked away from 30 years of military medicine, from a career that had defined her entire adult life, from the work that had given her purpose and meaning. And then she had disappeared into the anonymity of janitorial work, where the stakes were low and the only thing she could hurt was a floor. But last night, when that young SEAL had needed her, all the training and instinct had come roaring back. For those critical moments, she had been Dr. Morrison again, confident and capable, saving a life. And it had felt right. For the first time in 3 years, something had felt right. Kate's phone rang at 6 in the morning. It was an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Captain Morrison? This is Commander James Parker, Naval Special Warfare Command. I need to speak with you about an incident last night involving one of my men. Kate closed her eyes. I'm not a captain anymore, Commander. I'm retired. I'm aware of that, ma'am, but you saved the life of Petty Officer Dylan Jackson. He's one of my SEALs, and I'd like to thank you in person. Would you be willing to meet me for coffee? That's not necessary, Commander. I was just... Please, Captain, it would mean a lot to me, and to my team. Something in his voice made Kate hesitate. Finally, she agreed. They met at a small coffee shop near the base. Commander Parker was in his early 40s with the weathered look of a career SEAL officer. He stood when Kate entered, and she noticed he had a slight limp. Captain Morrison, thank you for coming. It's just Kate now. They sat down with their coffee, and Parker studied her for a moment. I read your file last night. It took some doing to get access to it, most of it's classified, but what I could read was... Impressive doesn't even begin to cover it. Kate shifted uncomfortably. That was a long time ago. You received the Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars with Valor Device, and the Meritorious Service Medal 3 times. You were the head of trauma surgery at 3 different naval hospitals. You pioneered surgical techniques that are still being taught today. You saved the lives of over 200 special operations personnel during your career. I also lost patients, Commander, a lot of them. Parker nodded slowly. I know, I read those reports too, including the after-action report from Syria 3 years ago. Kate's throat tightened. Then you know why I retired. I know you blamed yourself for deaths that weren't your fault. I know you suffered from PTSD and survivor's guilt. And I know you walked away from a career you loved because you couldn't forgive yourself for being human. The words hit Kate like a physical blow. She blinked back tears. Captain Morrison, Kate, I've lost men too. Every SEAL commander has, and we carry that weight every day. But we don't stop serving. We honor the fallen by continuing the mission, by being better, by saving the next life. It's not the same, Kate whispered. You're not the one cutting into them. You don't see their blood on your hands. You don't. She stopped, unable to continue. Parker was quiet for a moment. Then he said, 3 years ago my team was hit by an IED in Syria. I was the team leader. I made the tactical decision that put us on that road. 3 of my men died because of my decision. Kate looked up sharply. You were there. I was one of the wounded. You operated on me. 12 hours of surgery to repair my shattered leg and internal injuries. You saved my life, Kate, and you saved the lives of my teammates who survived. Kate stared at him, memories flooding back. I remember you. You kept trying to give orders from the operating table even under anesthesia. Parker smiled sadly. That sounds like me. Kate, you've spent 3 years punishing yourself for the men who died. But what about the men who lived? What about Jackson last night? What about me and the others you saved in Syria? Don't our lives count? Kate felt tears spill down her cheeks. Of course they count. Of course they do. Then stop hiding. Stop wasting your skills cleaning floors. The SEALs need you. The Navy needs you. Hell, I have a team recovering in that hospital right now who could benefit from having someone like you involved in their care. I can't, Kate said. I'm not ready. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. Parker reached across the table and gently took her hand. You were ready last night when Jackson needed you. You didn't hesitate. You did what needed to be done. That's who you are, Kate. That's who you've always been. Before Kate could respond, her phone rang. It was the hospital administrator. Dr. Morrison, I've been trying to reach you. We need to talk about your employment status. I understand if you need to terminate me, Kate said. I violated protocol. Terminate you? Dr. Morrison, I want to offer you a position. We have an opening for a trauma surgery consultant. Part-time, if you prefer. You would work with the surgical staff, provide training, and be available for complex cases. No pressure, no requirement to perform surgery yourself unless you choose to. Kate was stunned. I don't understand. I just told you I can't do this anymore. You also just saved a patient's life using a skill set that took 30 years to develop. That's not something you just throw away. Please, at least think about it. After the call ended, Kate sat in silence. Parker watched her carefully. What did they say? Kate told him about the offer. Are you going to accept? He asked. I don't know. I'm scared, Commander. I'm scared I'll freeze up. I'm scared I'll make a mistake. I'm scared I'll let someone down when it matters most. Fear is normal. It's what you do with that fear that defines you. Kate's phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Ma'am, this is Petty Officer Jackson. They told me what you did last night. You saved my life. Thank you doesn't seem like enough, but thank you. You're a hero." Kate showed the message to Parker. "You see," he said gently, "you're already making a difference. The question is whether you're going to let fear stop you from making an even bigger difference." Over the next 2 days, Kate wrestled with the decision. She visited the hospital, met with the administrators, and toured the surgical facilities. Everything was familiar yet foreign, like returning to a home she hadn't lived in for years. On the third day, she received an unexpected visitor at her apartment. It was Petty Officer Jackson, moving slowly but mobile, accompanied by another SEAL. "Dr. Morrison," Jackson said, "I hope this isn't inappropriate, but I wanted to thank you in person." Kate invited them in, offering coffee. "This is Lieutenant Marcus Webb," Jackson said, introducing his companion. "He's our team leader." Webb shook Kate's hand with a firm grip. "Ma'am, I understand you're considering returning to medicine. I wanted you to know that the SEAL community remembers you. We remember what you've done for us over the years. You're a legend among special operators." Kate felt her face flush. "I'm not a legend, I was just doing my job." "No, ma'am," Webb said firmly. "You were saving our brothers. Some of the best SEALs I know are alive today because of you. And not just SEALs, Rangers, Marine Raiders, all of us who operate in the shadows. We remember." Jackson nodded. "Ma'am, I know what PTSD feels like. I know what survivor's guilt feels like. Most of us do. But we also know that hiding from our demons doesn't make them go away. Sometimes you have to face them head-on." "That's easy to say," Kate said quietly. "It's harder to do." "Yes, ma'am, but you've never chosen the easy path. Your record proves that." After they left, Kate sat alone in her apartment, thinking about everything that had happened since that night in the hospital. She thought about Jackson's blue lips, about the feel of the needle in her hands, about the immediate certainty of what needed to be done. She thought about Commander Parker's words, "Don't our lives count?" And she thought about all the young warriors who were fighting and bleeding, and dying in places most Americans would never hear about, who deserved the best medical care available when they came home broken. Kate pulled out the photograph of herself in her navy whites, surrounded by SEALs. She traced the faces of the men in the photo, remembering each name, each surgery, each battle to save a life. Then she picked up her phone and called the hospital administrator. "This is Dr. Morrison," she said, her voice steady. "I'd like to accept your offer. When do I start?" 3 days later, Kate walked into the Naval Medical Center wearing scrubs instead of a janitorial uniform. She felt exposed, visible, vulnerable, but she also felt something else. She felt like herself again. The surgical staff welcomed her warmly, though she could sense their curiosity. The legendary Dr. Morrison, who had disappeared 3 years ago, suddenly back and working as a consultant. Her first day was orientation and paperwork. Her second day, she observed surgeries and provided feedback. Her third day, she was asked to teach a class on combat trauma surgery to the surgical residents. Standing in front of the classroom, looking at the young doctors eager to learn, Kate felt the old confidence beginning to return. "Combat surgery is different from civilian trauma," she began. "Your patients are young, fit, and determined to survive, but the injuries are often catastrophic. You will see things that will haunt you. You will lose patients despite your best efforts, and you will have to find a way to cope with that reality while still being able to save the next life." One of the residents raised her hand. "How do you cope with it, Dr. Morrison?" Kate paused, considering the question honestly. "I didn't for a long time. I let the losses overwhelm me. I let my fear of failure paralyze me. I walked away from medicine because I couldn't handle the weight of the lives I couldn't save." The room was silent. "But I'm learning that walking away doesn't heal the wounds. It just leaves them untreated, festering. The only way forward is to acknowledge the pain, honor the fallen, and find the strength to continue serving those who still need us." After the class, several residents approached her with questions and thanks. Kate felt a warmth spreading through her chest, the satisfaction of teaching, of passing on knowledge, of making a difference. Maybe this was how she could serve now. Not necessarily performing surgery herself, but teaching others, consulting on difficult cases, being a resource for the next generation of military surgeons. That evening, as Kate was leaving the hospital, she saw a group of SEALs entering the main entrance. They were visiting teammates in the recovery ward, bringing bags of contraband snacks and good-natured jokes. One of them noticed Kate and stopped. He was older than the others, probably in his mid-30s, with a weathered face and a long scar down his left arm. He stared at her for a moment, then his eyes widened with recognition. "Captain Morrison," he said, his voice filled with disbelief. Kate nodded, yes. The SEAL immediately came to attention and rendered a sharp salute. "Ma'am, I don't know if you remember me. Chief Petty Officer Tom Ramirez. You operated on me 6 years ago in Afghanistan. Shrapnel wounds, perforated bowel, collapsed lung." Kate searched her memory and found the face, younger then, pale and bleeding on her operating table. "I remember. You told me you had a daughter who was waiting for you to come home." Ramirez's eyes glistened. "She's 9 now, ma'am. I've watched her grow up because you saved my life." The other SEALs had stopped and were watching the exchange. "Ma'am," Ramirez said, his voice thick with emotion, "I heard you'd left the Navy. I heard you'd disappeared, but seeing you here, seeing you back." He couldn't finish. Kate felt her own tears threatening. "I'm not back completely, just consulting, teaching." "That's still service, ma'am. That still counts." He lowered his salute but remained at attention. "Permission to shake your hand." "Of course." Ramirez shook her hand with both of his, holding it firmly. "Thank you, Captain, for my life, for my daughter's father, for everything." The other SEALs gathered around, and Kate learned that 2 of them had also been her patients at various points in their careers. The stories poured out, surgeries she barely remembered, lives she had saved without knowing the long-term impact. As they talked, more SEALs appeared. Word had spread quickly that Captain Morrison was in the building. Within 20 minutes, Kate found herself surrounded by a dozen special operators, all wanting to thank her, to tell her their stories, to let her know that her work had mattered. Lieutenant Webb appeared with Petty Officer Jackson. "See, ma'am, we told you, you're a legend." Kate looked at the faces around her. Warriors she had saved. Men who had gone on to serve, to marry, to have children, to live full lives because she had been there when they needed her most. And for the first time in 3 years, Kate felt the weight of guilt begin to lift. She hadn't failed. She had saved so many. Yes, she had lost patients. Yes, those losses hurt beyond measure. But standing here, surrounded by living proof of her skill and dedication, Kate finally understood what Commander Parker had been trying to tell her. The lives she had saved mattered. They counted. And they deserved to be celebrated just as much as the losses deserved to be mourned. "Thank you," she said quietly to the assembled SEALs. "All of you, thank you for reminding me why I became a doctor in the first place." But Kate didn't know that this gathering of grateful SEALs was about to change everything. She didn't know that tomorrow would bring a crisis that would force her to make the hardest decision of her life. She didn't know that her journey back from darkness was just beginning. The following morning, Kate arrived at the hospital at 7 o'clock to prepare for a teaching session with the surgical residents. She was reviewing case files in her office when Commander Parker appeared in her doorway, his expression grim. "Kate, I need to talk to you. It's urgent." She gestured for him to sit. "What's wrong?" "We have a situation. One of my SEAL teams was conducting a training exercise early this morning. There was an accident, a helicopter malfunction during a fast rope insertion. We have 5 casualties, all critical. They're being airlifted here as we speak." Kate felt her pulse quicken. "What's their condition?" "Multiple traumatic injuries, broken bones, internal bleeding, head trauma. The medics are keeping them stable, but they're going to need immediate surgery when they arrive." Parker paused. "Kate, I know this is asking a lot, but our trauma surgeon on duty is good, but he's young. He's never handled mass casualties from a special operations incident. I need someone with experience. I need you." Kate felt the familiar panic rising in her chest. "Commander, I'm a consultant. I'm not cleared for active surgery. I'm not." "I got you temporary surgical privileges this morning. The hospital administrator approved it. Kate, these are my men. I trust you. They need you." "I can't," Kate's voice cracked. "What if I freeze? What if I make a mistake? What if?" "What if you do nothing and they die?" Parker's voice was gentle but firm. "Kate, I watched you save Petty Officer Jackson without hesitation. I know you're scared, but I also know you're ready." Before Kate could respond, the overhead speakers crackled to life. "Trauma team to the emergency department. multiple incoming critical casualties, ETA 5 minutes. Parker stood up. 5 minutes, Kate. That's all the time you have to decide. Are you going to be Dr. Catherine Morrison, or are you going to let fear win? He left her alone in the office. Kate sat frozen, her mind racing. 5 casualties, multiple traumatic injuries, the kind of mass casualty event that could overwhelm even an experienced trauma team. She thought about the last time she had faced a situation like this. Syria, 3 years ago, 7 wounded SEALs, 4 saved, 3 lost. The memories threatened to paralyze her. She could see the faces of the men who had died, could hear the flatline of the monitors, could feel the helpless rage of knowing she had done everything right, and it still hadn't been enough. Kate's hands were shaking. Her breath came in short gasps. The panic attack was building, threatening to overwhelm her completely. Then her phone chimed. A text from Chief Petty Officer Ramirez. "Ma'am, heard about the accident. Those are my teammates. Please help them if you can. They deserve the best. They deserve you." Kate stared at the message, her vision blurring with tears. Another text came in, this time from Lieutenant Webb. "Dr. Morrison, I know you're scared, but you've got this. We believe in you." Then another from Petty Officer Jackson. "You saved me when I was dying. You can save them too. I know you can." Kate's phone kept chiming as more messages came in. From SEALs she had operated on over the years, from the residents she had taught, from nurses and medics who had worked with her. All of them believing in her, all of them trusting her. Kate looked at her hands, still shaking but capable. These hands had performed thousands of surgeries. These hands had saved hundreds of lives. She thought about what Chief Ramirez had said. "I've watched my daughter grow up because you saved my life." All those lives, all those fathers, husbands, sons who had gone home to their families because she had been there when it mattered most. And now 5 more young warriors needed her. Kate stood up, her decision made. She walked quickly to the surgical changing room, stripped off her consultant's coat, and put on surgical scrubs. Her hands were steadier now, her breathing controlled. She scrubbed in at the sink, the familiar ritual calming her mind. 30 years of training and experience took over, pushing the fear aside. When Kate entered the trauma bay, the scene was controlled chaos. The casualties had just arrived, and nurses and doctors were swarming around the gurneys, assessing injuries, starting IVs, calling out vital signs. The young trauma surgeon on duty, Dr. Michael Chen, whom Kate had met during orientation, looked up with relief when he saw her. "Dr. Morrison, thank God. I have 5 critical patients and only 2 operating rooms ready. I don't know how to prioritize." Kate's mind shifted into combat mode. She moved quickly from gurney to gurney, assessing each patient with practiced efficiency. Patient 1, compound fracture of the femur, possible internal bleeding, critical but stable. Patient 2, head trauma, unconscious, deteriorating neurosigns, life-threatening. Patient 3, multiple rib fractures, pneumothorax, struggling to breathe, critical. Patient 4, crushed pelvis, massive internal bleeding, life-threatening. Patient 5, spinal injury, paralyzed from the waist down but stable. Kate made her decisions quickly. "Chen, take patient 2 to OR1. He needs immediate neurosurgical intervention. I'll take patient 4 to OR2. He's bleeding out. Get orthopedics for patient 1. They can handle the femur fracture. Patient 3 needs a chest tube now, then he goes to OR1 after Chen finishes with patient 2. Patient 5 is stable. Get him to CT scan and have neurosurgery evaluate." "You're taking the bleeder yourself?" Chen asked. "Yes, he's got minutes before he exsanguinates. We need to move now." The team sprang into action. Kate followed patient 4, a young SEAL named Petty Officer Marcus Chen, no relation to the doctor, to the operating room. As the anesthesiologist put him under, Kate scrubbed in, her mind completely focused on the task ahead. The surgery was brutal. Massive internal bleeding from a lacerated liver and torn blood vessels in the pelvis. Kate worked with speed and precision, her hands moving with the muscle memory of 3 decades of surgical experience. There was no time for fear, no time for doubt. There was only the surgery, the patient, and the desperate fight to save a life. 4 hours later, Kate stepped out of the OR, exhausted but victorious. Petty Officer Chen was stable and headed to the ICU. The bleeding was controlled, the damaged organs repaired. He would live. Dr. Michael Chen met her in the hallway, his own surgery completed. "Patient 2 is stable. The neurosurgeon said it was touch and go, but he's going to make it. A nurse approached with updates. Patient 3 is out of surgery, doing well. Patient 1 is in orthopedics now. Patient 5 is in the neuro ICU. They won't know about the paralysis until he wakes up. Kate leaned against the wall, feeling the adrenaline drain away. 5 patients, all alive, all stabilized. She had done it. Commander Parker appeared, still in his uniform, looking like he hadn't moved from the waiting room in hours. When he saw Kate, relief washed over his face. "How are they?" "They're alive," Kate said simply. "They all made it through surgery. The next 72 hours will be critical, but they have a fighting chance." Parker's eyes glistened with tears. "Thank you, Kate. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for being there when we needed you most." Kate felt her own tears falling. "I almost didn't. I almost let fear win." "But you didn't. That's what matters." Over the next 3 days, Kate barely left the hospital. She monitored the 5 SEAL patients closely, adjusting treatments, catching complications early, guiding the surgical team through the complex post-operative care. All 5 survived. All 5 would eventually recover, though the road ahead would be long for some of them. Word spread quickly through the SEAL community. Dr. Kate Morrison was back. The legendary trauma surgeon who had disappeared 3 years ago had returned and saved an entire team. On the 4th day after the accident, Kate was doing rounds in the ICU when she encountered something unexpected. Standing outside the room of Petty Officer Marcus Chen were at least 20 Navy SEALs, all in uniform, all standing at attention. Kate stopped confused. "What's going on?" Chief Petty Officer Ramirez stepped forward. "Ma'am, word went out through the SEAL community about what you did, about how you saved the entire team. Brothers from 3 different SEAL teams wanted to be here to pay their respects." "Respect? I was just doing my job." "No, ma'am," said a voice from the back. An older SEAL pushed through the crowd, a master chief with graying hair and at least 2 decades of service under his belt. "You did more than your job. You came back from retirement, faced your demons, and saved our brothers when they needed you most. That's not just doing a job, that's heroism." The Master Chief came to attention and rendered a crisp salute. "Master Chief David Thompson, ma'am. You operated on me 12 years ago in Iraq. Took you 16 hours to put me back together. I never got the chance to thank you properly." One by one, the SEALs introduced themselves. Some Kate had operated on. Others were teammates of men she had saved. All of them wanted to express their gratitude. "Ma'am," Ramirez said, "the SEAL community takes care of its own, and you're one of us. You've bled for us, fought for us, and saved us. You're a brother in all but name." Kate was overwhelmed. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything, ma'am," Thompson replied. "We just wanted you to know that you're not alone. Whatever battles you're fighting, whatever demons you're facing, you have a whole community standing with you." Later that evening, as Kate sat in her office processing the day's events, there was a knock on her door. It was Commander Parker, accompanied by a Navy captain Kate didn't recognize. "Kate, this is Captain Sarah Rodriguez. She's from Naval Medical Command in Washington." Rodriguez shook Kate's hand warmly. "Dr. Morrison, I've read your file. I've also read the after-action reports from the surgery 3 days ago. I'm here to offer you a position." "A position?" "We're establishing a new combat trauma training center at this hospital. We need a director, someone with extensive combat surgical experience who can train the next generation of military trauma surgeons. The position would be a return to active duty, with the rank of captain restored. You would oversee all combat trauma training for the Pacific Fleet." Kate was stunned. I don't know if I'm ready for that." "You saved 5 critical patients 3 days ago after being out of active surgery for 3 years," Rodriguez said. "If that's not ready, I don't know what is." Parker added, "Kate, this is a chance to make a real difference, to ensure that the next generation of surgeons is as well-trained as possible, to save lives not just through your own hands, but through the skills you pass on to others." Kate thought about the young residents she had taught, about Dr. Chen, who had performed so well under pressure, about all the future surgeries that would be performed by doctors she had trained. "Can I have some time to think about it?" she asked. "Of course," Rodriguez said. "Take a week, but Kate, the Navy needs you, the SEALs need you, and I think you need this too." After they left, Kate sat alone in her office, looking at the photo she had brought from home. the picture of herself surrounded by SEALs, confident and capable. She pulled out her phone and made a call. "Mom, it's Kate. I need to talk to you about something important." Her mother, who had watched Kate struggle through 3 years of depression and guilt, listened as Kate explained everything that had happened. "What do you think I should do?" Kate asked. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Katie, when you retired 3 years ago, I supported you because I could see you were breaking. But I also saw a piece of you die. You've never been happier than when you were saving lives. If this is a chance to get that piece of yourself back, then you owe it to yourself to try. What if I fail again? Then you'll get up and try again just like you've done your whole life. Katie, you're one of the strongest people I know. You've faced death, loss, and overwhelming guilt. And you're still standing. You're still fighting. That's who you are." After the call, Kate looked at the photo again. Then she looked at herself in the small mirror on her office wall. She saw someone who was tired but not broken, scared but not paralyzed, wounded but healing. She saw Dr. Catherine Morrison, Navy surgeon, warrior in her own right, ready to serve once more. And for the first time in 3 years, she smiled with genuine hope. 1 week later, Kate stood in front of Captain Sarah Rodriguez and Commander James Parker in a conference room at Naval Medical Command. "I've made my decision," Kate said, her voice steady. "I accept the position as director of the Combat Trauma Training Center. I'm ready to return to active duty." Rodriguez smiled and shook her hand. "Welcome back, Captain Morrison. The Navy is lucky to have you." "There's one condition," Kate added. "I want to establish a peer support program for military medical personnel dealing with PTSD and moral injury. Doctors, nurses, medics. We all face trauma, but we're often expected to just push through it. I want to create a safe space where medical professionals can get help without fear of career repercussions." Rodriguez nodded thoughtfully. "That's an excellent idea. I'll make sure you have the resources to make it happen." The paperwork was processed quickly. Within 2 weeks, Captain Catherine Morrison was officially back on active duty, wearing her Navy uniform once again. The Combat Trauma Training Center was established in a new wing of the Naval Medical Center. Kate threw herself into the work, developing curriculum, recruiting instructors, and designing simulation exercises that would prepare military surgeons for the realities of combat medicine. But she also made time for her peer support program. She started by sharing her own story, speaking openly about her PTSD, her struggles with guilt, and her journey back from the edge. Her vulnerability gave other medical personnel permission to share their own struggles. The program grew quickly. Doctors and nurses who had been suffering in silence found support and understanding. Kate brought in mental health professionals, former combat medical personnel, and peer counselors. She created a culture where seeking help was seen as a sign of strength, not weakness. 3 months into her new role, Kate was teaching a combat trauma simulation when Commander Parker appeared at the training center with a group of SEALs. "Captain Morrison, sorry to interrupt. I have some people who wanted to see you." Kate looked up and recognized several faces. Petty Officer Jackson, fully recovered from his collapsed lung. Petty Officer Marcus Chen, walking with a cane but alive and smiling. Chief Ramirez, Lieutenant Webb, and several others she had operated on over the years. "We have something for you, ma'am," Ramirez said. Master Chief Thompson stepped forward, carrying a framed shadow box. Inside was a Navy trident, the symbol of the SEALs mounted on blue velvet along with a brass plaque. Kate read the inscription, "To Captain Catherine Morrison, who has saved more SEALs than we can count and asked for nothing in return. You are forever one of us, semper fortis, always strong." Below the inscription were dozens of signatures, SEALs from multiple teams, spanning years of her career. Kate felt tears streaming down her face. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything, ma'am," Thompson replied. "We just wanted you to know that you matter, that your service matters, that every life you've saved has rippled out in ways you can't even imagine." Jackson stepped forward. "Ma'am, I found out last week that my wife is pregnant, our first child. I get to be a father because you saved my life. That matters." Chen added, "I'm getting married next month. I get to have a future because you put me back together. That matters." One by one, the SEALs shared their stories. Marriages, children, continued service, lives lived fully because Kate had been there when it mattered most. Kate was overwhelmed. She had spent 3 years focusing on the lives she couldn't save, and in doing so, she had forgotten about all the lives she had saved. "Thank you," she whispered. "All of you. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for reminding me why I became a doctor." That evening, Kate attended a formal dinner at the Naval Special Warfare Command headquarters. She had been told it was a routine training center recognition event. She arrived in her dress uniform, expecting a small gathering. Instead, she walked into a ballroom filled with hundreds of people. SEALs in dress uniforms, Navy admirals, medical personnel, and family members of the warriors she had saved over the years. Commander Parker met her at the entrance. "Surprise, Captain, this dinner is for you." Kate was led to the head table, where she found herself seated between Admiral Michael Richardson, commander of Naval Special Warfare Command, and Captain Rodriguez. Admiral Richardson stood to address the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are here tonight to honor an extraordinary individual. Captain Catherine Morrison has served the Navy and the Special Operations community for over 30 years. During that time, she has saved the lives of more than 200 Special Operations personnel. She has pioneered surgical techniques, trained countless surgeons, and served with distinction in combat zones around the world." He paused, looking directly at Kate. 3 years ago, Captain Morrison faced the darkest moment of her career. Like all warriors, she was wounded, not by bullets or shrapnel, but by the weight of loss and the impossible burden of trying to save every life. She walked away from medicine, believing she had failed. The room was silent, everyone listening intently. But Captain Morrison did not stay down. With courage and determination, she confronted her demons, found her way back, and returned to service. In the months since her return, she has saved lives, trained the next generation of combat surgeons, and created support systems for other medical professionals struggling with the invisible wounds of service. Richardson picked up a small blue box from the table. "Captain Morrison, by order of the Secretary of the Navy, you are hereby awarded the Legion of Merit for exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding services and achievements. Your skill, dedication, and unwavering commitment to saving the lives of America's warriors represent the highest traditions of military service." Kate stood as the Admiral pinned the medal to her uniform. The room erupted in applause. But Richardson wasn't finished. "There's one more thing. SEALs have a tradition of awarding honorary tridents to individuals who have served the SEAL community with exceptional distinction. These awards are rare and are only given to those who have demonstrated the same courage, commitment, and sacrifice that we demand of ourselves." He picked up a gold Navy SEAL trident. "Captain Morrison, it is my honor to award you an honorary SEAL trident. You have earned your place among us. You are and always will be one of us." As Richardson pinned the trident to Kate's uniform next to her new medal, every SEAL in the room stood and came to attention, rendering a sharp salute. Kate, tears streaming down her face, returned the salute. The moment was captured in a photograph that would later hang in the Combat Trauma Training Center, a reminder of what service, sacrifice, and redemption looked like. After the ceremony, Kate was surrounded by people wanting to congratulate her, thank her, and share their stories. She met wives who thanked her for saving their husbands, children who thanked her for saving their fathers, parents who thanked her for bringing their sons home alive. One woman approached with a young boy about 9 years old. "Dr. Morrison, I'm Maria Ramirez, Chief Ramirez's wife. This is our daughter, Isabella." Kate knelt down to the girl's level. "Hello, Isabella, your father is a very brave man." "He says you're the bravest person he knows," Isabella replied. "He says you're a real-life superhero because you save people's lives." Kate's throat tightened. "I just try to help when I can." Maria took Kate's hand. "You gave me my husband back. You gave Isabella her father. We can never repay that debt, but we want you to know that our family thinks of you as part of our family. Always." As the evening wound down, Kate found a quiet moment alone on a balcony overlooking the San Diego harbor. Commander Parker joined her. "How are you holding up?" he asked. Overwhelmed, grateful, humbled. Kate touched the trident on her uniform. "I spent 3 years thinking I was a failure. Tonight, I learned that I made more of a difference than I ever realized." Parker nodded. "That's the thing about saving lives, Kate. You don't just save one person. You save everyone who loves them, everyone who depends on them, everyone whose life they'll touch in the future. The impact ripples out forever." "I wish I had understood that 3 years ago." You understand it now, that's what matters. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the lights reflect on the water. What's next for you? Parker asked. Kate smiled. More training, more teaching, more helping medical professionals who are struggling like I struggled. And maybe, when I'm ready, more surgery. One patient at a time, one life at a time. The SEALs will be there whenever you need us. I know, and that means more than I can say. 6 months later, Kate stood in the surgical observation room above OR1, watching a team of young Navy surgeons perform a complex trauma surgery on a Marine who had been injured in a training accident. Her students worked with skill and confidence, applying the techniques she had taught them, communicating effectively, staying calm under pressure. Kate felt a profound sense of satisfaction. This was her legacy now, not just the lives she saved with her own hands, but the lives that would be saved by every surgeon she trained, every technique she taught, every lesson she passed on. Her peer support program had expanded to multiple military hospitals. Hundreds of medical personnel had sought help, found healing, and returned to service stronger than before. Kate spoke openly about her own struggles, using her story to help others find hope in their darkest moments. She still had nightmares sometimes. She still remembered every patient she had lost. But she had learned to carry that weight without being crushed by it. She had learned that honoring the fallen meant living fully, serving completely, and never giving up on the living. Kate's phone buzzed with a text from Petty Officer Jackson. "Ma'am, wanted you to be one of the first to know. My wife had the baby this morning, a girl. We named her Catherine after you. Thank you for giving me the chance to be a father." Kate smiled through tears and typed back, "Congratulations, she's lucky to have you as her father." That evening, Kate returned to her apartment and looked at the photo that had sustained her through the darkest times, herself in dress whites, surrounded by SEALs. But now, next to it, she placed the new photograph from the award ceremony, herself in uniform with the SEAL Trident and Legion of Merit, surrounded by hundreds of warriors whose lives she had touched. Two versions of Dr. Catherine Morrison, both proud, both strong, both committed to service. She thought about the janitor she had been 18 months ago, invisible and hiding from the world. She thought about the journey from that dark place to where she stood now, honored, respected, and making a real difference. It hadn't been easy. There had been moments of fear, doubt, and overwhelming anxiety. But she had faced those challenges, leaned on the support of her community, and found her way back to who she was meant to be. Kate's phone rang. It was the hospital. "Captain Morrison, we have a mass casualty event coming in. Multiple trauma victims from a vehicle accident. Can you come in?" Kate didn't hesitate. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. She changed into scrubs, grabbed her gear, and headed out the door. As she drove toward the hospital, she felt the familiar pre-surgery focus settling over her mind. There were lives to save. There was work to be done. And Captain Catherine Morrison was ready. She was no longer the invisible janitor, dismissed and underestimated. She was no longer the broken surgeon, paralyzed by guilt and fear. She was Dr. Kate Morrison, Navy captain, combat trauma surgeon, teacher, mentor, and honorary SEAL. She was a warrior who fought her battles in the operating room instead of the battlefield. She was proof that it's never too late to face your demons, heal your wounds, and return to service. She was proof that the measure of a life isn't in the battles lost, but in the courage to keep fighting. And she was proof that sometimes the greatest heroism isn't in never falling down. It's in finding the strength to get back up. As Kate walked into the hospital, a young SEAL in the waiting room recognized her and immediately stood at attention, rendering a sharp salute. Kate returned the salute with pride, touched the trident on her uniform, and headed toward the emergency department. There were lives to save, and Dr. Catherine Morrison was exactly where she was meant to be.